Underestimating the Sun Belt East. It's Locked On Sun Belt.
You are Locked On Sun Belt, your daily podcast on the Sun Belt Conference, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, Dave Schultz back with another edition of Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. Sorry, we're a little tardy with today's episode. Appreciate you tuning in. We'll talk about me underestimating the Sunbelt East. Is Butch Jones on the hot seat? And we'll get into more of that later in the week as well. And a quick early preview of week number 3. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. All right, let's talk about this Sunbelt East because the power, I thought, had shifted. I really did. Only based on quarterbacking, mostly, right? Todd Centeio from James Madison, gone. Chase Bryce from App State, gone. Who was picked to win the division? JMU. And App State was number 2. Grayson McCall, 3-time Sunbelt Player of the Year, a little bit dissed, picked a third, and Cam Fancher and Marshall picked a 4th. The unknown was Grant Wilson and ODU, among others. And you got Darren Granger with Georgia State. Davis Brin was the Sunbelt Player of the Offensive Player of the Week. So a lot are underestimating because Troy was your defending champion. A lot of the guys were coming back, but a couple of the guys weren't. A center, their middle linebacker, another linebacker. They had some holes to fill, and they haven't quite filled them. All right, they are not a team. Gunnar Watson and Kamani Vidal are really good in playing close ball games. They're really good in staying ahead. They're not good in coming back. That is not a forte of Troy. South Alabama, I just don't know what to. I mean, sorry to be so graphic, but somewhere along the way they got to get their heads out of their butts and start playing football again because they are way too talented to doing what they are. The Cajuns, they got better offensively this past week. Ben Woldridge has been fantastic. Someone said to me they're among the nation's leaders in offense 2 weeks in, or at least the conference. I think it's the nation's leading in offense in terms of what he's done. We don't know about Southern Miss just yet, right? G.J. Kinney and T.J. Finley come up with a huge upset on the road to Baylor, but then kind of fall a little bit flat to UTSA. And ULM is 2-0, but not a real impressive victory over Lamar. And Arkansas State is, struggling. It is what it is. But I thought with Troy being your defending champion, it had shifted over a little bit, right? They destroyed Coastal Carolina. They did. I know there was I think Grayson did play in that ball game. He did. He was banged up, but it looked like maybe it was early in the morning. Coastal Carolina wanted no part of that ball game. Troy was jacked up for it, and they got destroyed. Or they did the destroying of Coastal Carolina early on in that ball game, and give a little bit of credit to Coastal and Grayson McCall for showing up in the second half. They very easily could have packed it in and said thanks, but no thanks. Grayson had already gone into the portal, or will go into the portal. Well, maybe he hadn't been in the portal just yet, but he was going to do so just because of a timing thing. Although he did play in the bowl game, they lost that one as well. But Coastal Carolina didn't want any part of that ball game, and so Troy was your defending champion, and so I didn't think they were going to be as good as they were last year, but I still think they were going to be pretty good. I thought South Alabama was going to be one of those group of 5 teams that kind of look like a Tulane, the way Tulane looked against them. Could they pull off a UCF? Could they pull off a Cincinnati? All right, they got another shot this week. All kinds of issues with Oklahoma State. Talk about, if you got 2 quarterbacks, you don't have one. They got 3 quarterbacks. They're playing a 3-quarterback rotation at Oklahoma State. Okay. I don't know how you prepare for that, but it is what it is. But I just thought that the power in the conference was over to the West. But that's not what it is, right? I mean, Curt Cignetti had no choice after naming Alonzo Barnett III, the starting quarterback, but he got gun shy, couldn't complete a pass, 3 of 12 for like 15 yards and an interception. They wouldn't even call a pass play. Jordan McLeod comes in, settles things down, jumps out to a big lead, a 17-7 lead, can't quite add to it. falls behind 28-17 and 35-24 and pulls out a victory in Virginia. And with all the emotion going on in Charlottesville. And so, again, a super senior. I think he's getting a master's degree in like cyber intelligence. So a really bright guy, although not the biggest of all guys, right? Somewhere along the way, you'd think that JMU would find a 6'3" quarterback, but another diminutive guy, but making good decisions for the most part and leading them to victory. App State, they don't have one quarterback. They have two quarterbacks, right? Ryan Berger was the guy, redshirt freshman. He's going to be the guy we're going to, again, just like Zach Taylor and company, if this guy's still there, right? He's going to be like Levi Lewis was for the Cajuns. He's starting for 3 years, although he played for 4, maybe even 5. And this is the way Ryan Berger is going to be. And all of a sudden he gets hurt in his first game. Joey Aguilar comes in, throws 4 touchdown passes on 13 attempts, wins that ball game against Gardner-Webb. The defense ain't all that great, but he leads App State into a hostile and fun atmosphere in Chapel Hill and could have won the football game. Very easily could have won that football game against Drake May and North Carolina. I mean, that's awesome, right? Again, JMU is up there. Georgia Southern is 2-0. All right. And, again, doing a little of this FanDuel stuff, the way you make money is, betting on underdogs, winning, not covering, winning. And so, can Georgia Southern pull off a win at Wisconsin? Wake Forest is coming in to Norfolk. Can ODU beat them? Are those two great football teams? Now, this is not Southern Miss playing Florida State. That neither Wake Forest or Wisconsin are neither of those. All right. Now, both teams are big, more than 2 touchdown underdogs, but they could win. All right. So when you're thinking about putting some money down, you can come away as a big winner, but don't gamble more than you should. But I think I'm going to, right? Just, you never know, right? Duke beat Clemson and won on that. Texas beat Alabama, won on that. Although that wasn't that big. That was a touchdown, but still, nonetheless, that's more than a 1-to-1 a gamble. So I am very, I guess I apologize for underestimating the East. Georgia State with a nice win over UConn. I'm telling you, don't take UConn for granted, and they didn't. It's going to be really interesting moving forward because, can one of the Sun Belt teams get some love? South Alabama can still right the ship from the West if they beat Oklahoma State and they figure things out. We did get some news. Brian McReynolds is basically out for the year, one of the running backs, and Devin Voisin is out for this week. Although I guess we didn't technically get the news on what the injury is, which I guess is, what would you say? I guess not revealing. We don't know what the injury is, but it didn't look good, his knee. I guess he could be out for a month or two, but that didn't look good either. So, I don't know if South Alabama can turn it around. They haven't looked very good this year just yet. And yet, what if Georgia Southern goes in and competes with Wisconsin? What happens if ODU knocks off Wake Forest? What happens if, Southern Miss takes down Tulane? Do we know if David Pratt is playing for Tulane? Because as much as the backup quarterback played okay and got Tulane off to a good start against Ole Miss, there was nothing in the second half. They scored a grand total of 3 points. Score was a little bit misleading because of an onside kick and a turnover. So instead of a 27-20 ball game, it was a 37-20 ball game. But otherwise, Tulane looks beatable without Michael Pratt. So it'll be really interesting to see where we're moving forward. All right, let's take a timeout. When we'll come back, we will talk about Butch Jones and how much of a hot seat he is on, because it seems to be, at least on my point of view, it does seem to be a little warm, to be honest with you. It does seem to be a little warm. Let's tell you a little bit about Gametime. Buying tickets to your favorite events shouldn't be stressful. Gametime is a fast and easy way to buy tickets for all sports, music, comedy, and theater near you. With killer deals on last-minute tickets and their best price guarantee, you can stop stressing over the tickets and start getting hyped for the fun you'll have. What are some things you'll like about Gametime app experience? They have flash deals and last-minute tickets. Easy to find and buy tickets for every kind of event in your area. Image of the seat views that you'll be getting, lowest price guarantee, event cancellation protection, and job loss protection. It's the fastest growing ticketing app in the country for a reason. Get images of your seat before you buy so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. Buy tickets in a matter of seconds. 2 taps and you're all set. Tickets are sent directly to your phone so you never have to dig through your email. Snag the tickets without the stress with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your Locked On Sunbelt, yeah. Your team every day. There we go. I forgot Marshall in the previous segment. And what about Marshall, right? They've had a couple of wins and move on, right? And it's a lot more fun and satisfying when you can correct the issues after wins than they are after losses. All right. I mean, Cam Fancher, what are we sitting here? Cam Fancher is 8-1 as a starter, and we're complaining about Cam Fancher? So what if you have 9 or 10 win and move on? Get over it. So they look like Picassos instead of Monets. Okay. They all don't have to be a work of art. I mean, JMU's win over Virginia was anything but. That was an insane football game with crazy decisions, missed calls, and an hour delay at least. So you win and move on in this ball game. All right, what about Butch Jones? Because we've been talking about this, and again, these group of 5 schools, just don't have the cash for a lot of these things. You can't, it's not just firing the head coach, it's firing the entire staff. You got to hire another staff. That gets expensive, right? It's, and, the Butch Joneses of the world will always be okay. All right. He made a ton of money with Tennessee, probably was paid well at Alabama. He's paid well now. That's not the people I concern myself with. There's the assistants, the people who are not making the high 6 to 7 figure deals. Not necessarily living paycheck to paycheck, still probably living pretty well, but now they have to look for a job. So I never advocate, for the most part, to have a coach fired. But there comes a time where, you got to see improvement. And it's one thing to get beat by Oklahoma 73-0. It's another thing to get beat 37-3 to Memphis. We're going to get to the point where what's the point? What are you trying to do? Right? Because you see turnarounds quickly, right? It's not going to be a fair comparison. But, Billy Napier walked in. He had a lot of NFL talent on the team. All right. Mark Hudspeth probably lost a little bit of control, struggling to find a quarterback. Napier had a makeshift quarterback deal for his first year, but still had a ton of talent, especially in that backfield. Jamarcus Bradley helps as well as a wideout. And they rolled to division titles year after year after year and finally winning the Sun Belt Championship in Napier's last year. John Summerall, same thing. Has some talent at Troy, just got to straighten things out and comes away with a championship in his first season. All right, so maybe not exactly the same thing. And unfortunately, I like Blake Anderson. He's got a great sense of humor, and just tragedy has struck his family, all the time. His wife was getting sick. Passed away, son, same thing, I believe. And obviously you lose focus when you're concentrating on your wife and, something's going to take a back seat, and the Arkansas State program did. And I don't think anyone blames Blake Anderson for that, but that's what happened. And they are barren of talent. And Butch Jones has had a couple of good recruiting classes, right? This is only his 3rd year. And despite that, he's had 2 really good recruiting classes. Well, so that means one recruiting class is of sophomores and another recruiting class is freshmen. So how much are those guys helping? The thing is, now you can, bring in transfers, so you got to be able to do it, right? Another example is South Alabama's Kane Wommack, right? Won 5 games his first year, not great. Competed, right? Jake Trotter got hurt, and that's not right. Jake Bentley, sorry. Desmond Trotter. Jake Bentley got hurt. And so that prevented a couple of wins. but, won 10 games last year. So in 2 years, he's gone from 5 wins to 10 wins. And even if they don't win, they compete, right? They didn't look great against Tulane, and yet it was still 21-17 midway through the third quarter. Somewhere along the way, Arkansas State's going to have to compete. Now, they get Stony Brook this week. Stony Brook is bad. They have 2 losses to FCS schools, which they are. This has to be a win. And I would tell you, win and move on. As I just said, that's all that matters. It'd be nice if they look good doing it. If they get a win, I guess any win is going to be good enough. But Stony Brook's been blown out twice. And if you win, 28-24, hey, we won, but it's going to not look great in this case, right? So we will talk more about Butch Jones later on in the week. Jeremy Harper from A-State Fan Rules and Funbelt PC, Funbelt Podcast, will hop on later on in the week to see how much of a hot seat he's really on. Again, not advocate for firing, but 73-0 and 37-3 is a tough start for the season. All right. Now it's going to get easier, right? We think, but not that much easier. So they need to compete, right? He's got 5 wins in 2 years, now 2+ years. So somewhere along the way, that's going to have to change, right? Somewhere along the way, not only is he going to have to compete, but he's going to have to win. And so far, he hasn't come close to doing either one. All right. When we come back, quick early week 3 preview. And we do have some more Power 5 games and some big ball games to go over. But let me tell you about FanDuel. As I mentioned, it's a lot of fun. Get ready for the NFL season with incredible offers from FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Plus, all customers who bet $5 will get $100 off NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Now is the best time to join FanDuel. The app is easy to use, and you can bet on everything from spreads to player props and more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season with an offer you won't want to miss. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. Tried my hand at a parlay last night, and I got greedy. I got greedy because I saw the parlay was Grant Wilson anytime touchdown and a Stephon Diggs anytime touchdown. And that should have been the parlay. I stuck Josh Allen in there. Oops. So I would have won a lot more, but I didn't win because I got greedy. I saw someone suggested anytime Wilson touchdown, anytime Diggs touchdown. Should have taken my little bit of cash. Would have been nice, but I got a little greedy. That'll teach me. All right. Although in something else, I did win because, forget it. I won my football pool because the Jets covered. All right. Even though I picked the Bills. Crazy story. All right. Let's look at the Sun Belt. It is Dave Schultz, Locked On Sun Belt, your team every day. Good thing I didn't have a brain cramp that time. So we do know that Georgia Southern is going to Madison to take on Wisconsin. You do have Wake Forest coming to Norfolk. All right. And all of a sudden, you're going from a 7-game losing streak to can they pull off the 2-game winning streak? That's down to a 14-point spread. I think it was more than that when it opened up. South Alabama going to Oklahoma State. That's big ball game. The Cajuns playing UAB. So 1 week, the Cajuns offense doesn't look good. They score 38 points. The next week, it looks better. They score 31, but the defense gives up a bunch. So we'll see what happens. UAB, a small 2-point favorite in that one. By the way, the Cajuns, not the Cajuns. The Cajuns are a 2-point underdog. South Alabama, a 7-point underdog at Oklahoma State. Wisconsin, a 19-point favorite against Georgia Southern. Again, first of all, I'm hopping on that. I'm hopping on the 19 points. That's for sure. And you put a little bit on Wisconsin, a little bit on Georgia Southern to win the ball game, and you come away with a big win. Also going to take ODU in those 14 points and put a little bit on ODU to win the ball game. No rest for the weary. App State getting East Carolina. App a 9.5-point favorite, another in-state rival. That'll be a good ball game as well. ULM is going to get a pissy Texas A&M. I don't think A&M's that good, but I do think they're better than Monroe. But we'll see if they can compete. See what Monroe can do. They're 2-0 for the first time since 2018. They did not play particularly well against Lamar. Texas A&M a 36.5-point favorite. We'll see if Monroe can put up some points. Good ball game. The Fighting Will Hall, Southern Miss, taking on Tulane. Tulane, the former home of Will Hall, the offensive coordinator a few years ago. Tulane, a surprising 13-point favorite. That feels off, and we'll have to see if Michael Pratt is going to play. Georgia State is a 7.5-point favorite on the road against Charlotte. Charlotte, let's see what they've done. They beat South Carolina State 24-3. They lost to Maryland 38-20. So they can score a little bit. I kind of like Georgia State in that ball game. On the road is tough, all right? Coastal Carolina taking on Duquesne. Arkansas State, as we mentioned, has got Stony Brook. That's a must-win. Again, Jeremy does not think that Butch Jones is quite on the hot seat as I do, or others might. But if you lose to Stony Brook, it's going to get real hot real fast. James Madison and Troy playing a conference ball game. James Madison is actually a 2-point underdog on the road. I thought that had started out as JMU plus or was a -1. That's gone to Troy -2. Okay. James Madison averages 36 points a game. No, I'm sorry. James Madison averages 38 points a game. So far, Troy has given up 37 points a game. All right, you do the math. Texas State going to try and rebound. They get Jackson State. It shouldn't be a trap game. It shouldn't be a letdown game. But Texas State has had 2 big ball games. Texas State beat Baylor and then almost the rival UTSA. So they get Jackson State. You get Nevada. Again, Jackson State's sitting at 1-1. Could be looking at 3-1. You cannot trip up against Jackson State. Jackson State, I don't know if we know about them. They took down South Carolina State. They lost to Florida A&M, but beat Southern on the road. So I'll tell you, I don't know much about Jackson State. Obviously, that's where Deion Sanders was. Deion Sanders took a lot of those guys with him to Colorado. And so they're not bad. They're certainly not depleted. We will say that, right? They are 2-1 so far this season. All right. Again, coming up this week, we will have, again, Jeremy Harper from Fun Belt Podcast. And I think we're going to get Landon Burton, the Raging Cajun center. He wasn't graded out as Pro Football Focus's #1 center in the Sun Belt. He got graded out as the best center in the nation by Pro Football Focus. We got to put him on. He's the brother of my producer, Lyndon Burton. So he will be on the podcast, I believe, tomorrow. And we'll have Jeremy on Thursday. And then we will preview on Friday I think that's maybe my days are wrong, but we'll go into depth into the preview for week 3 for sure later on in the week. All right. Thanks again for tuning in. Again, big turnout yesterday, especially the audio downloads. It's been great. Thank you so much. I appreciate everybody who is tuning in and subscribing. Please subscribe on YouTube. It's a big help. You've been watching and listening. Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. I'm Dave Schultz. Have a great day, everybody, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.